You know, she told me that affordability is something she hears from about 95% of the people she's met on the campaign trail. These are pressing questions we have been trying to answer since Christmas. Do you believe if they had acted differently that your brother would be here right now?
Yes.
Is that a normal process there?
It is.
And we watched as the family came out of the courtroom. Young's grandmother was distraught. She was crying. She had fallen into somebody's arms. We heard her wailing, asking, why is this happening? By all accounts, from my understanding, they followed the rules for seeking asylum. Why would they be detained by ICE then? Is it fair to say that it feels like the goalpost keeps moving when it comes to handling these cases?
Yes, and that's what happens when agencies don't talk to each other when they pass regulations.
Can you give us some clarity on the kind of work she's going to be doing for your office? You know, Angela, those lawmakers said point blank they want to know if Wexner knew about Epstein's crimes, and if so, for how long. Do you believe that? I mean, is that hard for you to believe or wrap your head around?
It's very hard for me to believe.
Tonight, 10 Investigates is getting them answers from the owner himself. He told me the headstone will be ready next Tuesday on the 20th.
Oh, God, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Rochelle.
Hey, good evening. I've been investigating this story for days, and again, I spoke to that woman. And tonight, I'm going to tell you why her quick thinking might actually help police identify who assaulted her in this case. Aitiatsi Padilla says her short north date night on the 4th of July ended with a fight for her life. And she says it all started when this stranger approached her and her boyfriend.
She's walking around yelling, causing a ruckus, turns around and instantly puts her attention on me and my boyfriend.
Padilla says something told her to start recording that encounter. And she ultimately ended up recording snippets of her own assault.
911, what's the location of the emergency?
Several 911 calls from that night say Padilla was beaten by a group of people.
A girl's getting beat up. It's almost like a gang activity.
Okay, how many people do you see?
At least like 20 of them.
And all of those calls placed that assault near the intersection of East Lincoln Street and North High Street.
They banged my head on the concrete. They pulled my hair. They punched me. They pepper sprayed me. They kept kicking me.
Padilla was also robbed during that assault and lost her keys, wallet, and AirPods. Padilla was so badly beaten that she wasn't able to file a full police report right after it happened. And she tells me she ended up flagging down a police officer when she was released from the hospital the next day to file a report. At the time, she says she told officers she was able to use GPS technology to track down her own AirPods, and she was certain that the people who had them might be connected to her assault. But she says officers still haven't followed up with her on her case. Until now, you've heard nothing.
Nothing.
You haven't got your stuff back?
Nothing. I haven't gotten no response from no one. My AirPods are just going around every address. They're at every address. They're out having a great time out in Columbus.
That woman also tells me her boyfriend was pepper sprayed and had his jaw broken during that fight and that he had to have surgery. In Columbus, Rochelle Alleyne, 10 TV News. In July of 2025,
He was perfect.
the Slatkoffs say they thought they'd found the perfect child care solution for their second child, Smith.
We thought we found a diamond in the rough.
At just 4 months old, he was too young to go to his sister's daycare, but they say teachers there referred them to a woman who watched many of their babies at her Delaware County home. And the Slatkoffs say everything was going great until Kelly got a call in early September.
And she was just frantic. It was hard to even really understand what had happened. She just said, he's going to the hospital.
There, they learned that 6-month-old Smith suffered a brain injury. He died 2 days later. According to the Slatkoffs, a medical examiner listed his death as undetermined.
She had put him in the basement where the toddlers slept, and their pack and plays had blankets and pillows. And unfortunately, I think how she would have sat him in there, made it easy for him to roll to his side and not easy to roll back.
The Slatkoffs say they don't know how long Smith was down there, and the case was eventually handed over to Child Protective Services in Delaware County.
They let us know, I think it was in October, that she was found with a substantiated charge of child neglect. And what our concern was, well, what does that mean?
We're not saying the woman's name because at this point she hasn't been charged with a crime. And the Slatkoffs say that was their first shock. And the second shock? That came when they realized that parents searching state daycare records would never see this case because the woman wasn't licensed. We sat down with child care expert Dr. Catherine Glenn Applegate to understand why.
If you're caring for fewer than 6 children within your home, there's no requirement in the state of Ohio to have a license. When you're not licensed, you're not in a database, there's no set checks and balances in that regard.
And here's why Dr. Glenn Applegate says it's tricky to police these kind of child care providers who fall under that definition.
I think it's a really hard line because when is it, if you might have a grandma taking care of their grandkids, is that acceptable? What if she takes on the child who lives next door too? Is that acceptable?
She added that they can be a helpful and safe child care option for many families. The question the Slatkoffs have now is why there isn't a way for the public to track any CPS records attached to their care.
What does justice look like to you both in this case?
I think justice for Smith is really accountability. We really want to see some sort of change, especially around CPS and the access to these records.
Daniel Smith says he started working at the Circleville Juvenile Correctional Facility to help troubled youth.
We're more or less, we're their parents while we're there.
But he says that mission ended in a violent assault back in February.
More people came into the laundry room and they started kicking me and hitting me. They were striking me in the head. I remember saying, "God, please stop."
Smith was able to fight the boys off. He hasn't been able to work since.
I had brain bleeds, skull fractures. My nose was so bad they had to do plastic surgery on it, and they weren't sure if I'd still have a septum afterwards.
And state data shows Smith isn't alone. According to DYS numbers, after holding steady for several years, there were nearly 70 more assaults on staff between 2024 and 2025.
First of all, I don't want anybody to come to work in fear they're going to be assaulted.
That's Amy Ast. She's the director for the Department of Youth Services. We first brought this issue to her in late April, and she told us the population they serve is challenging.
These are the highest risk, highest needs, most violent, 450 kids in the state of Ohio. So it is tough work.
But she added that much of the violence is typically carried out by a small number of the youth they serve.
About 85-90% of the kids don't put their hands on anybody on any given month.
Weeks after that interview, the facility saw another violent assault. This time, 3 teens attacked staff members and destroyed parts of their unit. The DYS director says the trio was on a separate unit because of violent behavior, and 2 of them were specifically there for assaulting Daniel Smith back in February.
Our core mission is to transform and save lives.
In June, we sat down with that director again to understand what happens next. She told us all of the youth involved in both assaults are facing new criminal charges, but she's also asked the court to decide if these teens need to be bumped up to the adult prison system.
That happens, doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, I think the courts get it right.
However, she added that a broader solution will require a law change. In Ohio, DYS can take people up to the age of 21. Director Ast says that distinction has allowed some of their most violent offenders to serve a few years in an adult facility and then come right back to finish up their juvie court sentence. She's now working with lawmakers to close what she's calling a loophole in the law.
When a young person is charged and found guilty in an adult court, they should be in an adult system.
But as she waits, she says DYS still has to care for many of these youth. And while she says they will always work to train on best practices, she added that this doesn't include matching a youth's level of aggression.
Is the response more force?
So to manage them like we would an adult would be highly inappropriate. There isn't a juvenile system in the country that does that.
To top this all off, Ohio is one of many states dealing with staffing shortages in this industry. And the director tells me they're working on recruitment. And in the long run, she said the state is looking to move youth to smaller facilities to help staff keep a better handle on things. In the studio, Rochelle Alleyne, 10 TV News.